A large crowd gathered toward the west end of Panama City Beach today for a double loggerhead sea turtle release. Brimsley and Beefy were both brought into rehabilitation at Gulf World Marine Institute after being accidentally hooked by recreational fishermen at local fishing piers. These loggerheads have since been medically cleared by veterinary staff and cleared for release by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Gulf World Marine Institute is a nonprofit organization that allows people to sponsor turtles set to be released.
Brimsley was one of our most popular sponsorable turtles lately. That is something we really love for people to be able to do. Today, the sponsors that showed up were able to walk down with him, which is really exciting. And we do really appreciate that support.
Anyone can visit Gulf World Marine Institute online. You can see who the current sponsorable patients are.
It feels really good to be able to know that you're helping one specific turtle you can bond with and know that you help set them free and they get to go home where they belong.
If you see a stranded or deceased dolphin, whale, or sea turtle, please immediately report it to Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. We'll have that phone number on our website, WJHG.com.